7 mistakes that cause injury in boxing for beginners. If you're looking to get into boxing, you're looking to join a boxing club or a studio, here's 7 common mistakes that I see beginners make that's going to hurt their knuckles, their wrists, their elbows, and their shoulders. Number 1, not getting their knuckles. So when they throw a punch, you'll notice that my knuckles are up over my watch. By turning those knuckles down, I'm going to drive the force through my forearm. So the mistake I see people make is they have their knuckles up. And when they land, it puts all that pressure on their wrist. And when they hit that punch, and naturally their wrist wants to buckle. But by curling that knuckle down, so in a side view from here, rolling those knuckles in, what that does is when you make contact, it drives the impact through your forearm, and that's going to save you from having wrist issues and pain in those wrists. So take your hands here, curl them in. Simple. Here, roll them in. By rolling them in, when you throw your punch, when you hit, it lands, it goes through your forearm and shoulders. Second thing, when you look at your hand, the further you go to the outside towards your pinky and your ring, these knuckles are going to be a little more delicate. You want to focus on your pointer and your middle finger. These 2 knuckles, when done boxing, should be a little red. They may get skinned up, but these 2 knuckles shouldn't be red at all. Now, the way you're going to do that is curl those knuckles in. When you land your punch, you notice it's called a corkscrew. I land my punch, I turn it down. I don't go all the way down like this. I go right to about, if this was 3 o'clock, my knuckle there, I'm just going to rotate it down to about 4 to 5. I don't need to go to 6. Rotate it to about, I like to be about 4. Okay, just turn and rotate. That's going to save you if you're focusing on those bigger knuckles. Let the boxing glove do the work. So the mistake I see a lot of beginners make is number 1, they'll throw their punches out like this. Their hands are here. So curl them in and turn them down. A lot of beginners will jab. I can't tell you enough how many times I get clients in class and in the boxing ring, and they're throwing their punches and they want to go out there. You got to give me that turn. There's a lot more that I can get into the science behind that, but the reality is, as the beginner, curl your knuckles in, turn those punches down. The other thing is your elbows drop. I see a lot of times when people are throwing hooks, your hook should be up like this, parallel to the floor, 90-degree bend. You got that knuckle, you're curling in, you're landing solid on that bag or that mitt right here. What happens is, as soon as your elbow drops, look what's being emphasized. Your pinky and your ring finger. So when you get that elbow up and you throw that hook like you're supposed to, you're going to land that punch right there on those knuckles. Drop that elbow, you're going to hurt your wrist, you're going to hurt your elbow, because it puts, when you make contact, the force goes this way and puts all that emphasis on your elbow. Now the number four mistake is not rotating that punch. So we talked about that in number 2 as far as emphasizing your pointer and your ring finger. Emphasize those by rotating that punch. Rotate that punch, rotate that punch, rotate that punch, rotate that punch. Rotating those punches is going to help you save from having knuckle, wrist, and elbow and shoulder issues. Mistake number 5, not snapping your punch out and snapping it back. I see a lot of times the mistake for beginners is they want to, what I call, stick their glove on the bag. They want to throw it and hold it, almost like karate. Ha, ha. You want to throw that punch out and snap it out, snap it back. Best thing that I can tell you is, if you've ever wound up a towel and try to snap someone in the rear end, what that does is you go out, snap it back. Same thing with your hand. Allow your hand to be like that towel. Snap it out, snap it back. Snap it out, snap it back. Knuckles are in. Snap it out, snap it back. What that's going to do is allow you not to try to punch through the bag and push forward. If you hit that bag, snap it out, snap it back. Your speed as a beginner is your power. A lot of times I see the mistake beginners make is they're trying to come in here and they're trying to just overpower their punches. They punch so hard, they're trying to prove something, and at the end of the day, they're not snapping their punch. 6th mistake a common mistake that I see beginners making that causes injury is they don't know their distance. When you're going to hit something, it's obviously really important to know the distance in which you need to be. How far away from your target do you need to be in order to hit the target? I find that a lot of beginners, because they're still trying to figure out what that feels like, what that looks like, that's where a lot of injuries come in from. So the best thing I can say is the mistake I see beginners make is they lunge forward and they try to push through the bag. And once they push and lunge, they're actually shortening the distance. And the best way I can describe it is, let's say I could reach out and I can touch from 3 feet. I know that I can, if I just land that, I can hit that 3 foot. The second I lean a foot in or 6 inches in, now that 3 feet target is now 3 feet and 6 inches. I'm punching 6 inches in. That 6 inches is pushing all that through my body, and now because I've leaned forward or I stepped in, whatever I'm doing as a beginner, there's a lot of things that would cause you to, you guys to create that distance in fracture is leaning forward, stepping in, I see a lot of people moving unnecessarily. Like, you want to move, but there's a way to move, and when they start moving, they lose their distance. They lose their sense of distance, and so then they step forward, and there's a lot of issues there. So know your distance. Best way I can teach you is when you go out there, take your jab, hold it on that bag, and that's your distance. If you can land your jab, you can land any other punch. The 7th and final mistake I see causing a lot of injuries for beginners is they don't understand the idea of fighting in a phone booth. If you're too old or too young for a phone booth, or what a phone booth is, look it up online. There's plenty of stuff on Google. But what we would say is fight in a phone booth. A phone booth is a small box, and when I see people swinging way outside or throwing these big haymakers, that's when they're going to cause injury. We fight in a phone booth, so we keep it tight, and by keeping it tight, we keep our punches relatively behind us, and that allows us to absorb, our bodies to absorb a lot of the impact. When we fire a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're not throwing huge haymakers and all this stuff that causes injury. Shorten everything up, pretend like you're in a phone booth, and fight nice and tight. That will prevent you from injuries. So once again, let's recap. The 7 mistakes that cause injury for beginners. Number 1, your knuckles are not turned down. Number 2 is your pointer and middle finger, not emphasizing your pointer and middle finger. Number 3, your elbow drops when you're throwing your hooks. Get those elbows up, emphasize those 2 knuckles. Rotating your punches. Number 4. Number 5, snapping your punches. Just like a towel, snap it out, snap it back. Number 6, know your distance. Know exactly how far away you need to be in order to land your punches. And number 7, keep it tight. Fight inside that phone booth. The mistake I see is you get way outside, you're throwing huge wailing punches, and you're going to destroy something. You're going to hurt yourself pretty quickly. Like and subscribe to my Instagram at Steve Murbach. That's M-U-R-B-A-C-H. It's titled under The Entrepreneur and Boxing Trainer. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave me your comments. Let me know what kind of injuries that you typically are getting and why you're getting them. I'll respond to those. If you're a trainer, let me know what some of the common injuries that you're receiving and why those injuries are the way they are from your club or your boxing gym.